I got the message.
All right, it's official.
Oh, really? I can't. Oh, I can. I gotta try not to.
Hello, welcome everybody.
Well, I only have 200 emails.
We're going to wait for everybody to
I have to go through and delete stuff.
I'm gonna mute everybody's lines to start today's session, just to drown out any of the background noise. So you can always come off of mute at any point by clicking the mute icon on the bottom left part of your screen. So we are going to dive right in just a second. I'll introduce myself and the other facilitator that is with me today. But before we did, I wanted to let Becky say a few words just to start us off. And Becky, you are on mute.
Thank you. So welcome everybody. We're excited to be able to pull through our last week of virtual trainings for RSVP. And we are lucky to have our awesome brand partners, Sean and Jessica, with us today. And Cherie and Heidi are also on from the field learning team for support. The thing that I ask of you is that you make sure you're not multitasking or trying to accomplish other tasks during this training. We want you to be able to focus and learn everything that's being presented to us today and tomorrow. So thanks for being here, and back to you, Sean.
Awesome. Thank you, Becky. So yeah, as you guys can see, my name is Sean. I'm a learning manager with Dunkin' Brands, and I've been with Dunkin' for a little over 10 years now. I'm proud. I just got my 10-year plaque, so I get to put that up on my shelf. I cover a bunch of Southeast. So I'm based out of Atlanta, Georgia. I cover Tennessee, Alabama, portions of Florida. So for those of you in the Northeast right now, where it's probably a little colder, you could be jealous because I'm looking out at the beautiful sun, probably be up about 70 degrees today. So I'll be taking you through some information over the next couple of days. There'll also be somebody else with us tomorrow. His name's Dan. I believe he'll be with us tomorrow. But you also have with me today, Jessica. So Jessica is going to be taking us through some information as well. So Jess, do you want to introduce yourself? And you are on mute too.
And I sure am. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Ness. I'm unmuted now. I'm a learning manager just like Sean. I've been around for about 8 years. I am based out of the state of Pennsylvania. So cold here today, Sean, hence the t-shirt and the coat and the other coat on top. I'm freezing in my office. But let's see. So I cover states, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Virginia, West Virginia, Delaware, a little bit of New Jersey, and a little bit of Virginia. But super excited to be here with you today and joining Sean and everyone else as we take you through RSVP.
Awesome. So Jess and I are going to be taking you through a bunch of information today. As you can see, this is officially what we call session 1, which is going to be covering employee setup and cash management. I'll take you through the agenda in just a second. But before we do, since we'd like to make this as interactive as possible, even though it is virtual, ideally we'd be in a meeting room and we'd all be having computers in front of us and going around the room and having more of a workshop. But this year's been kind of crazy. So we're faced with use of a lot more of technology than we've probably ever been faced with before. So we're going to try to make this as interactive as possible. And we have a few different tools that we like to use here within the Zoom meeting. And one of those is Annotate. So we have an annotation feature that is at the top of the screen. When you click on the drop down for view options and annotate, there's also going to be an option for you to select an arrow or a stamp, or you can draw. So at this point, this is where you can run and you can draw anywhere on the screen. You can make a smiley face, you can write hi, you can stamp an arrow or a heart. Looks like Jess has gotten a little creative here. I'm not sure. Oh, there we go, nice smiley face. So yeah, if you guys can just show that you found that annotation tool and just scribble on the screen or stamp somewhere on the screen, just so we know that everybody found it. I know Jess knows where it is because we've done this a million times now at this point. At the top, it says view options, annotate, and then select any of those tools and just scribble or draw or stamp anywhere on the screen. Awesome. Andrew found it. Like Juju found it. Mike. Everybody's going with the scribble. There we go. Becky. Bunch of stars now popping up. All right. Like a little kid's first artwork. Okay, cool. So most of you found it. At some point, if you haven't played with it yet, then you can just feel free to practice. Oh, thanks, Jess. clearing that out for me. Feel free to practice with that when we asked you to annotate on the screen. The next one that we're going to use this quite a bit throughout today, is the chat feature. So the chat feature is located on the bottom of your screen. When you go to chat, you can type into the chat, and we're actually going to ask you to type into the chat some information. So in the chat, and you should have seen a prompt pop up where Jess just said where the chat is. So in that box where it says type message here, go ahead and type in all of the information that you see here on the screen. So you got a little bit of information about me. You know my name, you know my role, but you don't know what my favorite donut is. And I'm not sure if you even care, but I'm going to tell you anyway, just to buy some time while you're typing in. And my favorite donut, or donuts, I'm torn all the time between jelly and Boston cream. So I'm really torn between those two, depending on what day of the week it is. All right, so I'm gonna take a look at the chat here, see what we got out of you guys. So we have some names, we have some positions, we have multi-unit managers, field learning managers. I see a jelly, there we go, Juju. I'm through with the jelly donut. Kathy glazed, can't go wrong with that. Heather, some maple frosted. Patty, cream filled. You're in the accounting processes. Oh, director of business and accounting processes. We have Dwayne out of Boston. Jelly donut again, all right. A croissant donut. Oh, there you go, Hetty. A jelly munchkin, those are good too. Strawberry glaze, and then welcome, Andrew. I see your name in there also. So that is where the chat is. If you haven't typed in, you can feel free to keep typing, but we're gonna keep moving on. And of course, it wouldn't be a Duncan session or a Duncan course without some sort of legal disclaimer. So just want to pop this up on the screen for a second, and high level, just to give you the Cliff's Notes of this, is basically we're going to be taking you through the functionality to make the RSVP system work. It's going to be up to you guys and your team to make sure that you're following the laws and the rules that apply to the different cities and states that you operate in. I'm sure you are all speed readers and you've read through that very quickly, and I'm going to jump on to our agenda. So we can already check off that first bullet point there, which is a quick welcome and introduction. We also have some pre-work that I'm going to review in just a second that you were sent to have completed prior to today's session. Part of the pre-work is not just some online courses, but also some things that you would want to have to make today's session successful. After that, we're going to take you through employee setup. I'll take you through that. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jess to take you through cash management, which is also going to include some of the VDU changes that you can see with the new RSVP system. So that's today's agenda. At any point, you guys can type questions into the chat. You can come off of mute and ask us a question. We love to do that because we get to hear somebody else's voice. And after 2 or so hours of just hearing myself talk, it's definitely nice to hear another voice on the other end of the Zoom meeting. So any point you can come off of mute, ask us a question, or just type them in the chat, and we'll do our best to monitor that throughout the session and answer your questions. All right, so as far as pre-work goes, there were some online courses that we asked you to complete. You can see all of those listed. Those tie into the topics that we're going to be training today. So hopefully you had a chance to log into the U, complete some of those courses. It just gives you good visibility into the different topics that we're training as we start to dive into the demonstrations and then give you an opportunity to practice. After that, you can see all of the different things that we asked you to bring to training. One of those being your Oracle RNA login. So hopefully you have your login and you were able to verify that it works. I know there were issues a week or so ago, so hopefully we were able to solve all of those. The second one there, pretty self-explanatory at this point, is to have a computer or laptop, because you were going to be asking you to log into RNA and give you an opportunity to set up an employee. So you would need your computer for that. All of the information you see listed there, I'm going to circle back and talk about in just a second once we start to dive into employee setup. And then the last 3 pieces that you see there are having the user guide for employee setup, which is specific to the user guide that we've sent to the source. That's the RNA user guide. And then there was a 1-page document that you guys had created for you, which is this right here. And that is your CMC Oracle RNA employee setup and maintenance job aid. So just a smaller, shorter version with all of the steps that you guys will follow when setting up an employee. And that's going to be the one that I use. The last document that we asked you to have is the cash management process resource guide. So Jess will be referencing this at portions when she's taking you through the cash management process later today. That's all of the stuff we had you hopefully bring to the session and some of the pre-work that we asked you to complete prior to the session. All right, so first topic we are going to talk about is employee setup. So when you are setting up an employee, there's a few different resources, and I've just kind of covered on these, but you have your employee setup and maintenance user guide, which is your RNA user guide that you were provided in the RSVP binder, or it's available on OpSource as well. But more importantly for you guys, you have a job aid for you, which is that CMC employee setup and maintenance job aid. This was a document created by your team that gives you the step-by-step instructions specific to how you should be setting up employees in your organization. So I'm going to be referencing that job aid, but you also, again, have the employee setup and maintenance guide as a resource for you as well. So those are the two documents that we have, and I'm going to be using the one that you see there on the right side of the screen. So some of the employee data and setup options. When you're setting up employees, which we're going to be setting up employees in RNA, this is the information that you would want to gather prior to setting up your employee. This gives you an opportunity to have everything you need in front of you. So when you sit down and it's time to put employees into the system, you don't have to go searching for different pieces of information. So everything you see listed here will be able to get you going at a quick rate when you're putting employees into RNA. And basically what RNA is going to do is this is going to provide your employees from crew all the way up to, manager, multi-unit manager with access to the POS. So when we're setting up an employee for you, we're setting up these employees in RNA to provide access to the POS. And I know you do not use the POS as a time clock. So this is strictly for you guys being used just to give access to the POS to ring in sales. All right, so we are going to set up an employee in the system. And I know I'm supposed to have a volunteer out there. So I see the name Rox. Rox, are you out there by any chance where you can help me out? Trying to scroll through the names real quick and see if I see a Rox. I see a Robin. I don't know if that's a Rox.
And I think she might be coming on from Christina Donuts. I just saw a yes pop up in the chat when you asked if she was out there.
I gotcha. So Christina Donuts, are you able to come off of mute though? Because I need you to read some steps for me. Chatting those in is going to be a little challenging.
Sean, I'm going to ask them to unmute now.
Thank you, Jess.
There you go.
Christina Donuts, are you there? Or Rox? Oh, Christina's calling in. That would be perfect. If you can call in, that'd be great. And then we can actually hear your voice. I'll give you just a second to do that. So while she's calling in, if everybody can just make sure that they have that one-page document, and I'm showing you here, but you probably can't really see it, but it's the how to create users in Oracle for RSVP document that you have. That was, again, made by your organization. So I'm going to go through that step by step.
And team, that's on our email thread. It's also on the info site. So if you don't have it right in front of you, look for an email from me that has all the documents, and or jump on the info site under training under RSVP.
And I'm going to log in real quick to RNA. So this is your main page when you're logging into RNA. You guys would have all been provided with credentials to log into RNA. So I'm going to log in real quick. And now I'm logged in. I have my job aid. The one thing I need now is for Rox to call in, and then we will be good to go. And if we have problems with Rox, Heather, I have you listed as a volunteer also. Heather, are you there able to come off of mute if Rox can't get in? All right, and then if not Heather, and I hope I say this correctly, Nasir, are you able to come off of mute and chat with us? You're listed as a volunteer for today as well.
It looks like Heather is off of mute. Heather, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can. All right.
Okay. Have a little bit of feedback.
Yeah. Are you able to mute the, are you in a room with another computer? If you can just mute, if there's another computer in the room, if you can mute that audio, then that way it won't come through your phone or your computer.
Okay, how's that?
Perfect. All right, so the next question, which is a big one, do you have that job aid in front of you?
I do not. I was actually trying to navigate. I thought I was a volunteer for tomorrow, so I apologize.
No, no worries. I'm just seeing the names. I'm hoping to get lucky at this point, just to have somebody walk me through the steps. Do you have the ability to grab it real quick from the link?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it on my email on my phone so that I can pull it up.
Okay. And Rox, I know you were trying to call in. Were you able to do that? All right. It's been one of those days, I guess. But we'll keep trying.
Rox did, Sean, Rox did say that she is on. So I'm thinking it might be the new phone number that just joined, which is starts with a 603. I'm just going to ask to unmute.
Okay.
And then Rox, you should be able to talk if that is you.
Fingers crossed. Hey, Rox.
Hello?
Hey, so sorry about that. That was a struggle.
All right, so big question for you two now. Do you have that job aid in front?
Yes.
Yay, all right.
I'm sorry. Yes, the oh, where is it? I have it. I got distracted by trying to call in. It's the step through one, right?
Yeah, where it says
For
how to
the-
create users in Oracle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Heather, we will let you off the hook. Thank you so much for being our backup, but we are still going to call on you today. So be ready. Thank you for jumping in and trying to help out. So Rox, we are going to let you walk us through these steps, and I'm going to be clicking around on the screen. So when I'm adding a user in RNA, what is the first step that you have listed on that job aid?
Okay, hold on 1 second. First step for the job aid is to log into Oracle, so you're already logged in, and in the left-hand margin, you want to click labor.
Okay, yep, so on the left-hand side over here, you're going to see labor. So I'm going to click on labor. And then what do I do?
Then you go into human resources.
Perfect. So now I click on human resources. All right.
And next, select employee.
Okay.
And then you want to click add.
So I'm going to click add here. If you wanted to just see a list of all of the employees that you have in your restaurant, you could click find all here, and it would provide you with a list of all of the employees that you have created for your restaurant. So I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to jump up here to add a new employee. But if you're ever curious and just wanted to see a full list, you could do that from the screen right here. All right, so I'm going to click add. And now what do I do?
And then you want to go into your home store, which should be a drop down to your PC number.
Correct. So as a restaurant manager, you'll probably just have access to one restaurant. If you're a multi-unit manager or above, you would have access to numerous. So you would just want to select the home store that you were creating this user for. So I'm just going to select one of my PCs that I have access to. Okay, then what?
Okay, and then you want to go to click on General tab.
All right, so it defaults to this General tab, so I'm there so far.
And then fill in information for the team member. So your first name, last name, date of birth, employee role.
Yep, so I'm going to do first name, last name. I do want to just call out the blue fields and the white fields. They don't denote required versus not required. So that's why this job aid is going to be extremely important, because there's going to be fields that are in white cells that you need to complete. There's going to be fields in blue cells that you need to complete. So these don't tell you anything. It's just simply highlighting of cells. So follow the job aid. Make sure you use or fill in all of the information that the job aid tells you to fill in. So I have first name, last name. I know you said next up was date of birth. So I'll just select a date of birth. We'll go back a few years. Okay. And then
And you want to
after
go
date of
into employee role.
All right.
And it all says DD next to them,
Yeah, so it's going to be, you have crew
not Baskin
boss,
Robbins.
shift leader, assistant manager, or manager. So if you're setting up a crew member, I know you guys are setting up all of your crew members as DD Crew Plus. So I'm going to create this user as a DD Crew Plus user. Okay, now what do I do?
All right, and this is on along the top header, click the status tab.
All right, so you do not have to worry about filling in contact information. This is all optional information here. So we're just going to jump straight to this status tab now. Okay.
Okay, and then it goes enter hire date.
All right, I'm just going to pick yesterday to put a hire date in the system. All right.
Okay, and then it says hire date as hired status, so that would be the same thing.
Correct. So you're going to leave this radio button selected where it says
okay.
hired. If you did need to remove this person or really just to terminate this person here in the system, this is where you would do that. If you had to go back in, you had a crew member that left, you would uncheck the hired radio button and you would check terminated, and that would remove their access from the POS. Okay, so we're good here. I have my hire date. I have my status as hired. So now what?
Click on location configuration.
All right, so this is where it starts to get where there's a ton of information to input. So this is where you definitely want to have this job aid in front of you, especially for the first few times that you're creating users. All right, so what do I do after I select that?
Select is salary for everyone. Will allow them to bypass punching in.
Yeah, so regardless of salaried or hourly, you guys are always going to select for your organization is salaried. So this will make it to where your users do not have to clock into the POS. They can simply sign into the POS and ring in sales. So it avoids that step of having to clock in since you're not using the POS as a time clock for yourselves. So I'm going to check this box. You do not need to worry about filling in any of the rate for the salary information here. Okay.
And so scroll down to job rate, POS configuration. And on the job rate tab and complete, you want to load the location name first.
Yeah, so this is where, again, you want to follow the job aid. It's almost like a weird setup here on the screen. So you're going to scroll past this job rates box, and you're going to go down now to this location name. And that's where we're going to start to input this information. Once we input the information down here, it's going to populate above, and you'll see this square, which is empty right now, populate with all of the information we put in down here. So where it says location name, I'm going to select that. And that's going to be the PC that I set up as my home store. So I'll select my PC. What do I do next?
And then job code.
All right. So I have job code name, and you're going to see here that it says to select DD Assistant Manager. So for all of your employees, the way your organization has set it up, you are going to select DD Assistant Manager. Okay.
Effective date.
Right. So we're going to go with an effective date. Again, I'm just going to select yesterday's date. And then what do I do?
You want to go to primary job, excludes from staff requirements, exclude from scheduling, and check boxes. So you want to check those boxes.
Yep, so I checked all three of those boxes. So for all of your employees, you'll select your location name, which will be your PC. You're going to select the DD Assistant Manager as the job code name. You put in the accurate effective from date, and then check all of these boxes. All right, what's next?
Update list to save.
All right, so this is where you're going to see all of this information below populate right here in this box. So like I said, you kind of work a little bit backwards. You jump past that job rate tab and go further down to complete the information. And then when you update the list, that information is going to populate right here, as you can see. So that's good news. Everything worked correctly there. So what do I do next?
It says scroll back to job rates, POS configuration,
All right, so now I'm going to
and
jump.
select POS configuration.
Perfect. I'm going to jump over to that POS configuration tab. And then,
And it says only fill out the following. Under location name, select your PC.
yeah, so here, even though you see the PC listed right here on this screen, you still need to select it. And that's what's going to be how it fills in below here. So you want to make sure you check this to where you get this dotted border line, and then it's going to populate the location name below. So that's where you're going to select that. A lot of times people will scroll past that and the location name doesn't go in. So you just want to click on that right there and it'll populate down below. All right, so I did that. Now what?
POS password must be 9 digits. Use the PC number plus 3 additional numbers.
All right, so I have my PC number here as 777704. So that's what I've typed in so far. So it's 6 digits plus an additional 3. So I'm just going to put 789 here. This POS password is going to be the 9-digit code that they type in when they're entering the POS, when they're signing into the POS so they can ring in sales. This POS password, this 9-digit number, there's no way to recover this number. So we would ask that you come up with some sort of tracking system. Maybe it's an Excel spreadsheet where you put the names of your crew members and their POS login information. Obviously keep it secure so no other employees can find it. But there's not going to be a way if they say, hey, I forgot my 9-digit number, for you to be able to go back and tell them what that 9-digit number is. You can always go in and change it, but you can't recover the 9-digit number. So we just always recommend having some sort of tracking system for those 9-digit numbers so you can let them know if they forgot their number, what it is. So I have my 777704 and I just added 789. So I have my 9-digit POS password entered here. So what do I do after I enter the POS password?
To confirm the POS password again.
All right, so same thing. I'm just going to type the same exact number and confirm POS password. All right, and then what do I do?
You want to go to employee class, crew, or adjust for actual title.
Correct. So in my case, I'm setting up a crew member, so I'm going to leave this as crew. And it says to adjust for actual title. So if you were setting up, if you're a multi-unit manager and you were creating managers in the system, you would want the employee class to be listed as manager. Okay. Then what?
Employee privilege, select DD shift or higher for elevated positions.
All right. So employee privilege over here on the right side of the screen, I'm going to select DD shift leader. And again, if it was above shift leader, you could adjust for an elevated position. Okay, so I've got that done. What's next?
Cash drawer ID, select cash drawer 1.
Yep, so for every time, every user, you're always going to select cash drawer 1 from this dropdown. All right, next step.
And it's saying a magnetic card number, same as password.
Correct. So what I'm going to do now is over here where it says magnetic card number, I'm going to enter the same exact number that I entered here for POS password and for confirm POS password. So I have 777704 and 789. Now this magnetic card number, regardless if you're using magnetic cards or not, they still need to have this number typed in so they can use the POS. So even though crew members probably aren't going to be using magnetic cards, they still need to have that number matching all of the other fields here that you've put in. So all 3 of these fields need to match regardless if you're using a magnetic card or not. Okay, so I put that information in. Now what do I do?
Select update list to save.
All right, so same as I did just before this, when we were on the job rates tab, you're going to notice this information here is going to populate once I hit update list. And I can see POS password and all the other information populated above next to that location name. All right, so I hit update list. What is my next step?
It says when creating an RM, select portal from the top header.
Okay, so let me just
allow back office access. Do you want me to continue to that one? Or
Yeah,
is that
so
just
No, so I'll stop you here. I just want to show this to everybody. So restaurant managers, once you've gotten to this location configuration tab, your job is done. When you're creating crew members, your job is done here. You can hit save, and then all of that information would save. Within 15 minutes or so, it's going to pull that information into crunch time or potentially overnight. So it's just going to depend on how quickly it refreshes or if you push the information through, which I'll touch on in a second. If you are creating a restaurant manager, so if there's a multi-unit manager out there, if there's an FLM out there right now watching, if you're creating a restaurant manager in the system, you would want to also give them portal user access, which essentially allows them to create crew members in their own restaurant. So if a restaurant manager needed to add crew members to their own restaurant, you would need to set them up as a portal user. But when you're putting in crew, everything ends here at this location configuration tab. So portal user, you also have your steps there to be able to add that information. And this is the tab that you would put that information in on. Now that I am done, and I've put all of the information in that I need, the last step is always going to be save. So when I click save, this is where I keep my fingers crossed that I did everything correct. And I hopefully see what I'm seeing here on the screen right now, which is employee record has been saved. So that is good news. So Bernie Patera, who is a restaurant manager that I just created here in the system, her record has been saved, and that is it. So what we're going to do now is we are going to give you 10 minutes to go through that same process, use your job aid, and input an employee. So you can put in a crew member, you can put in numerous crew members, but what we're going to do is give you 10 minutes. We're going to give you that time to practice. We are going to be here. I'm going to turn off my camera and be on mute, but you can type in questions or you can come off of mute and ask us. So it's 12:02. At 12:12, we will start back. So any questions you have, feel free to throw them our way. Hey, everyone, just want to let you know we have 2 more minutes. So hopefully you're finishing up entering an employee, but we're going to start back in 2 more minutes. Any questions you have, type them in the chat or feel free to come off mute and ask us. All right, everybody. So finish up for the next 30 seconds or so if you're still working on entering an employee. But at this point, what questions do you have? You can type them in the chat. And if you don't have any questions, just let me know how it went. If it went well, I'd love to hear from you. Those are always the best when everything worked the way it's supposed to, and you can just say everything worked great. So, but feel free to type in the questions. Awesome. We have Gilda, super easy. That's what we love to hear. Not always going to be super easy, so hold on to that in some other times too. Again, thank you, Roxy. So see where you responded there. Is effective date the hire date? Not necessarily. So the effective date is when that, I believe it was position goes into effect. Sometimes you can change those positions and have them go into an effect at a future date. But in this case, more than likely for you guys, that effective date would match the hire date. I would just probably circle back and check with your leadership just to make sure that you're doing what they want you to do when it comes to that. So Andrew, went well. Awesome. Love to hear it. Doing well here. 4 people. Nice, Mike. Good job. Yeah, it goes quick, especially if you have all that information in front of you. We found in the beginning, people were just trying to piece the information together as they were putting their employees in, and it just took a ton more time. So if you have all of that stuff that we listed at the beginning in front of you when you're setting up employees, you can get through it pretty quick, especially after the first 1 or 2 and you're not having to look at the job aid anymore and you just kind of memorize all the steps. It goes a lot quicker. Awesome. Good job, everybody. So I just wanted to share one more slide before we started getting into cash management. And that was how the information transfers into the POS and into crunch time. So we just entered information into Oracle RNA. The full name is Reporting and Analytics. That information will go into the POS. So when you enter that information, it will give that crew member or that restaurant manager the ability to log into the POS within 15 minutes if you refresh the database, or if you don't refresh the database, if you're not in an immediate need for it, it would be the following business day when that information would get pulled into the POS. So depending on how quick you need them to have access to the POS, you may just wait till the following business day, or you could refresh the database. And in that case, it would pull that information through in 15 minutes. The other place that you may potentially want to look is in crunch time. So the information also goes to crunch time. In that case, it would go over from Oracle into crunch time in 15 minutes. It's just really for you guys, another place for the checks and balances to make sure that the employee was set up correctly in Oracle RNA, and that information then fed over to crunch time. There's a steps in the book to verify your employee setup, which would be done through the employee maintenance screen in crunch time. Not necessarily anything you need to know right now, just something to kind of file away in the back of your mind when you're going back through the books and just wanting to double check if people made it into crunch time. All right, so before I turn it over to Jess and we start to talk about cash management, I want to see how well I did getting you all of the information that was necessary. So I want to ask you a few questions. I'm going to open up a poll and you're going to see some questions pop up on the screen here. And I just want to let you know, I can only see how many responses there have been. I cannot see who answered what. So if you're not quite sure about one of the answers, just go ahead and guess, and we're going to recap these questions in just a second. So first question is, entering a magnetic card number is optional. Is that true or false? Number 2, what is the recommendation for creating a POS password? You can see all of the different options there. And then number 3, when you're going through RNA, is it true or false that only the blue fields are required? So true or false for that one? Looks like we have about 8 of you so far that have responded, 9. So I'm going to give it about 20 more seconds or so to let you have a little bit of time to get those final answers in. All right, I'm going to close this out in 5 seconds. So if you haven't hit submit yet, go ahead and get those answers in and submit your answers. And I'll close this out in 2 seconds and 1. I'm going to end the poll. And let's take a look at how you answered. So question number 1, entering a magnetic card number is optional. Most of you got that correct, and that is false. That is not optional. You do need to enter the magnetic card number regardless if you're using magnetic cards or not. So POS password, confirm POS password, and the magnetic card number fields all should have that same 9-digit code. And what is the recommendation for that 9-digit code? Well, every single one of you got that correct. Number 2 there, that is the PC plus 3 digits. Again, recommendation here is to have some sort of tracking mechanism. So if you do have a crew member or somebody who does not remember that 9-digit code, you can circle back and recover it. And just one other thing to let you guys know. So those codes need to be unique throughout the entire Duncan system, and they can't be reused. So you just want to make sure you have some sort of tracking. So as you're creating new users, of course, it's nice to have it if they forget their 9-digit code. But if you're creating a new user a month or 2 from now, and you're typing in the 9-digit code and it's already been used, you're not going to know what numbers have been used if you don't have some sort of tracking system for it. So just another reason why that might be important for you. Number 3, only the blue fields are required. That is actually false. So the fields can be blue or white. The color of the fields does not denote requirement. So use that job aid like you were using when you were setting up your employees, because that's going to be a job aid that navigates you through everything that is required, regardless of the color of the field. All right, well, good job, everybody. Thank you for answering all of those questions. I am now going to open it up for any additional questions that you have regarding employee setup before we change topics and move over to cash management. So any other questions that you have before we change topics? All right, I don't see anything coming through in the chat, and I don't hear anybody trying to talk to me. So we're going to keep on moving. If any questions pop in your head as we keep moving on, feel free to type them in and we'll circle back and get to those. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to Jess, and she's going to start us on the path for cash management. Jess, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. All right, so we're going to spend some time talking about one of my favorite topics, which is cash management and how to properly manage cash according to your network throughout the course of the day. But we're also going to talk about VDU changes. So there are some differences from the Radiant VDU and the Symphony VDU. But here are the resources that I'm going to be referring to throughout the cash process. The first is the Cash Management Process Resource Guide, which you all should have a copy of, and that's what we're going to be reading from at different points in time. So Sean has a list of people he's going to call on, and I'll have you read from the Cash Management Process Resource Guide. And that really is just the typical flow of a day in the life of a crew member, of a shift leader, of a restaurant manager, and essentially everything that you need to know in order to manage your balance cash. And then the other is the Symphony POS Quick Reference Guide. And this is a really great kind of QRG that explains how to do different things. So how a crew member would assign themselves a till, how a restaurant manager, which is everything in pink, would go about doing things like transaction refunds, gift card refunds, or various other manager functions, and then everything related to green as cash. So how to start the day, end of day, balance a till, how to do a cash pull or deposit a cash pull. That's all going to be in here. And I really recommend, because it's on a ring, I don't know if you can see mine, I'm holding it up right now. There's this little ring attached to it. And I really recommend keeping this up front by your POS, or using the ring to attach it to like a wire or cord or something, because some of the stuff that's in here, like how to do a refund, are things that you're going to need in the moment. Typically in the moment when a customer is standing in front of you saying, I need my money back because they're upset about something. And really the last thing you want to have to do is say, hold on, let me run to my office and find my QRG that tells me how to do this. So having it up front by your register so you have it quickly available when you need it is one of my best practices. So let's take a look at these VDU changes and what happens with Symphony versus with Radiant. The very first thing you're going to notice is how the orders appear on your screen. So in Radiant, they come across from left to right, and in Symphony, the orders are going to show up from the top to the bottom of the screen. You'll also notice that as large orders come in, like the one that you're looking at from drive-through here, if it continues onto the top of the next screen, you're going to see this little part at the bottom. It looks like the paper is ripped, and then the paper continues to be ripped at the top of the next screen. So that's just what denotes that it's a large order that's going to continue into the next column. You'll also notice that there's a lot less abbreviations and a lot more full text, as well as blue. So blue means an iced beverage, and then black is going to be for your hot beverages or anything else that gets rung up. One might ask, well, why not red? We'll talk about red in a few moments. Red does mean something, but instead of meaning hot, it's going to mean stop. And again, we'll talk about that more. But do notice that iced beverages are always going to show up in blue, and then modifiers and other items show up in black. Additionally, as we move on, if we take a look at an order kind of a little bit up close, I want to point out a couple things that are going to show up on here. And you'll notice that these are tend to be pretty similar with Radiant. The first is your order number is going to show up in the top left-hand corner. So here we're looking at check number 58. The time of the order is going to show up in the top right-hand corner. The name of the iced beverage, again, is going to show up in blue. But what's underneath of that, all of these modifiers, they're always going to show up in the build order. So we should always be making beverages, flavor, sugar, dairy. And no matter how they're rung up in POS, they're always going to show up in the build order of flavor, sugar, dairy, no matter what. One additional thing to point out here is you'll also notice the 2 in front of the sugar. There is not a number in front of the pumpkin swirl, the cinnamon shot, or the skim on the VDU. If there's not a number, that means 1, and it will actually print as 1 on the sticker printer for the beverage, and it will show on an order confirmation board if you have one at the drive-through, it will show as 1 for the guest. So it is important that you're ringing up exactly 1 or 2. There is not a regular cream or sugar button, so you do need to ring by number. The other thing you're going to notice is the cashier name in the bottom left-hand corner. So Sean is ringing up this particular order. And then your subtotal is going to be down at the bottom. And then as this is paid for, that'll change to say paid instead of the subtotal. One of the changes is how VDU will show the on the side items. And so in the example on the screen here, we're looking at a plain bagel that's toasted with grape jam on the side and peanut butter on the bagel. So if an item is on the side, it's always going to show up underneath the particular modifier. If it is 2 items on the side, it's going to be sandwiched in between those modifiers. So in the example on the right, you're looking at a plain bagel toasted with grape jam and peanut butter, both on the side, and that's why the 2 is showing up on the side. If So this was a plain bagel. Looking back at the first example, a plain bagel with peanut butter on the side, grape jam on the bagel. Peanut butter would be listed first on the side right underneath that, and then the grape jam at the bottom where you're currently seeing peanut butter. And that just denotes that the on the side shows up right underneath the modifier that's being on the side. Void. So here's that red text or that red font that I was talking about. Red means stop, don't make it, because the item has been voided. So if we're looking at this drive-through order currently, you're going to notice that the sausage, egg, and cheese on a plain bagel is in red, and there's a V beside it. And that means that that order has been voided. That sandwich does not need to be made. And then if an entire order is voided or canceled out, you're going to have a big red box around the entire order and then a big red X through the entire order as well. And that's just showing that the whole thing has been deleted. There is nothing on that particular order that you're going to need to make. So blue means iced. Black means modifiers and anything else. Red means stop, voided or canceled. Don't make that particular item or the entire order if you're seeing a big red X. The other thing to talk about is the color that shows up on the Symphony VDUs. So the entire box for the entire order is going to change color based off of your service time. These are pre-programmed to drive through service time, which is anything over 2 minutes. That's going to be red. From 1 to 2 minutes, the order is going to be yellow. And then, of course, when the order is first rung up and you're within 60 seconds, it's going to show as white. But it will change according to color as it hits those different time thresholds. As we continue to move on, the other thing to consider is where specific items are going to show up on your VDUs. So if we're looking at the drive-through example that's currently on your screen, you'll see that this has a small iced original latte with 2 caramel swirl and milk, a medium hot coffee black, and then a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant. Your latte and your coffee are going to show up on the beverage VDU. Your bacon, egg, and cheese is going to show up on the sandwich VDU. Really not any different from what you noticed. But then on your expediter VDU, if you have one in your store, then all of those items are going to show up on the expediter VDU. So it's letting you know everything that's going out on the drive-through, out the drive-through window. As items are cleared off of the respective VDU, so as the latte is deleted from the beverage VDU, and the hot coffee is deleted from the beverage VDU, and the bacon, egg, and cheese is deleted from the sandwich VDU, that's when you're going to notice this patterned border show up around the entire order. This patterned border is just simply telling you that all 3 of those items are available and ready to be consolidated and handed out to the particular customer. So it's just showing that everything's been cleared off of the other VDUs and that order is ready to go. But it does also mean that on an expediter VDU, if you have them in your particular PC, if you clear the expediter VDU, it gets cleared from the respective VDUs as well. So if this order would not have this check around it, and the expediter cleared it from the expediter VDU, then the latte, the coffee, and the bacon, egg, and cheese would disappear off of the respective VDUs. So the moral of the story is, don't bump too early. Make sure you see this checkered border, which means that the order is ready to go, and then you can clear it off of the expediter VDU. Other orders are going to show up on the expediter VDU for the other points of distribution as well. So your kiosk, because that's just like a customer walking in and placing an order, they're just ringing it up themselves. That's going to show up on the respective VDUs for beverage and sandwich, but then your entire order is going to show up on your front counter VDU. Your on-the-go walk-in, your entire order is going to show up on the front counter VDU. And then, of course, drive-through and on-the-go drive-through, they'll show up on the drive-through VDUs. So just wanted to point that out to you. Another feature that you have in the Symphony system, the Symphony POS, is you now have the ability to park cars, which is something that I wish I would have had as a crew member, because I was notorious for pulling people forward in the concept that I worked in, and then forgetting to run out their sandwich and their fries when their fries came out of the fryer. I would just always forget, and my manager would always get really mad. But we're not going to have that happen because we now have the ability to park orders at Dunkin'. So in order to do that, you're just going to use the little arrow buttons where you would usually arrow forward or arrow backwards in order to select a particular order. So these two little buttons down here at the bottom, and you're going to use those buttons to move the what you select with. So that's typically green, this little colored border here. You're going to move that over until you find the car that you're going to park. And then when you get to that car, you're going to hit the little park button that's on your bump pad. It's then going to turn your border to pink, just like you're seeing on the screen. And that's going to allow you to clear your other orders off of your VDU while that car is sitting out front waiting on whatever it is that they're waiting on. In this particular case, the 4 different sandwiches that they've ordered. Once you run that order out to the car, then you just use the little arrows to select that parked order again. You hit park one more time, and then it allows you to be able to clear that order off the screen. So it's just a visual reminder that you have that car sitting out front so that you don't forget about them like I used to always do. As we continue to move on then, I want to open it up here just to see if anybody has any questions about what's going to show up on the VDU. And then we're going to move into taking a look at how to balance and manage cash throughout the course of your day.
Jess, I don't see anything coming through in the chat yet. So
Okay.
I think we might be okay to move on.
All right. So Sean, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
Which should be connected to this POS here in Boston. Are you able to see the POS for me?
Yep, I can see it.
All right. So this is your home screen of your POS. And this is what we're going to be working on for the next little bit. As I said, we're going to take a look at how to balance and manage cash, and then what a crew member would do to sign in and out of the POS, what a restaurant manager would do in order to open and close deposits. Probably the biggest, most significant change from Radiant to the RSVP system is that everything that you're going to enter cash-wise is done at the front of house at any available POS, and not done at the back of house like you might be used to with Radiant. It does also mean that there is no end of day, start of day process. That's all managed for you and completed behind the scenes. So the only thing that you need to do as a restaurant manager is deposit the appropriate cash from the appropriate drawers in the appropriate day. And as long as you're putting cash drawers from the current day into that same dated deposit, and then your cash is balanced. So again, there's no really end of day, start of day process. There's nothing you need to enter into the back of house. This doesn't mean though that you're counting your cash in the front of house. You're still going to do that out of customer view, whether that's in the office or in the back of house somewhere. You're simply just writing it down and then entering it on an available POS in the front of house. So still keep all of your cash counting back out of customer view, as I'm sure you already do. So for this particular portion, we're going to be referring to the cash management process resource guide, like we showed you a few moments ago. So that's this big multi-page document that just walks you through different roles. So a crew member role, a shift leader role, and then different things that each particular person would do. The very first thing I'd like you to do is to turn to page 2. And we're going to look first at what a crew person would do in order to assign themselves a drawer when they come in the morning. So it might be 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever time you're bringing your crew members in, they're going to need to pick up a till or drawer from wherever you store that within your network. And then they're going to need to assign that to themselves or to a POS so that they can ring up guests or ring up all of your customers. And this starts on page 2. So Sean, I'm going to ask if you could just find out who our first volunteer is going to be. And as you're calling on them, I'm going to sign in as our first crew member, and I'm just going to have them walk through the steps that are on the screen.
Cool. So luckily, I think it should be working because Heather, we talked to you earlier. So Heather, you were the volunteer that we had for this. So if you can come off of mute and chat with us, and hopefully you have that job aid in front of you for cash management. Heather, are you still there?
Okay, can you hear me?
We can. Clear.
Yeah, we can.
All right.
Hi, Heather. So what you could do for me, if you could just read the very first box where it says A, start shift, and step number 1 says sign in. I've already went ahead and signed into the POS as this crew member, and I've done that just by typing in my 9-digit code that we set the crew member up with in RNA. So what's that step number 2 there?
Functions,
Okay.
and
And
then
then
daily shift functions,
Okay.
and then you're going to select start shift,
Okay.
select till number.
All right, so I'm going to jump in here real quick and just let you know that you're going to select the very first till number. And for us right now, that's till 3. You'll notice we don't have a till 1 and a till number 2, and we'll talk about why in a little bit. But I'm going to pick the first available till and hit OK. What's next, Heather?
And then you're going to select yes.
All right. And then what's it say underneath that?
Assign user to till.
So so once you hit yes, the next thing it tells you, it says result drawer open. So it pops open. I slide in my money. I go ahead and I close my till. And then what's step number 8, Heather?
Select your employee's name. Am I on the right one?
You should be on page 2. I think you might be in a.
So I have that large guide, the
Okay.
Symphony large guide. So I'm on page 65. So I have that one in front of me.
Yeah, so that one I think is a little bit different than this little one.
Okay.
But that's okay. I can just talk about what's going to happen here. So once the crew member hits yes, like we saw, and they slide in their money and they close the drawer,
Mhm.
that's all that they need to do. They're ready to go. So they can start ringing up people at this point in time and cashing them out. So Heather, what's your favorite beverage?
Let's go with I like a small iced green tea with nothing in it.
Awesome. So we're going to do a small iced green tea,
Mhm.
nothing in it. Fantastic. So I'm going to ring you up. And that's been a really busy day for me. So I need to take a break. And I'm going to have you read me the steps of going on break if that's in your guide. So if so, you're going to see an orange box at the top. It says breaks. It says step B and it says go on break. Do you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so what's step number 1?
So select functions,
All right.
daily. Okay, hold on. Unassigned till from POS. Where am
Yep,
I?
so you're right. So functions, daily shift functions. And then
Yep.
you said the next thing, which is unassigned till.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're just going to hit yes. And does it say what's going to happen when I hit yes?
To remove the till.
Yeah. So when I hit yes, it's going to pop open. I'm going to pull out my till and I'm going to go store that wherever you store it, or wherever you have your crew members store it when they're on break. Then the next step says step number 5 to sign out of
Sign out.
POS.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just going to hit that cancel and that's going to sign me out. Now the new crew member, whoever's relieving break, is going to have to go through the same things. So we would really follow the same exact steps. And for those of you following along, this would be in box C, which is break coverage. So that means the new crew member is going to need to sign in, and they're going to, well, they've picked up their drawer from wherever, and that new crew member is signing in using their own code, and they have their drawer in hand, and they're going to go do the same thing, functions, daily shift functions, and they're going to start their shift. You'll notice now 1's gone, 2's gone, 3's gone. Again, we'll talk more about why in just a little bit. They're going to pick the first available, which is now 4. Yes, it pops open, they slide it in, and now they're ready to ring. And then they'll just ring up and they'll continue ringing up and cashing out all of their guests. Heather, I want to thank you so much for helping. That's pretty much all I need you to do for right now. And you did a fantastic job, so thanks. All right, so I'm going to pause here and just ask if there's any questions on how a crew member would come in, assign a till, take a break, and then a new crew member assign a till. Sean's watching chat, or you can take yourself off mute.
Sorry, Jess. Yep. So the next volunteer was, and like I said, I'm hoping I'm saying this name correctly, and I apologize if I'm not. I think it's Nasir. Nasir,
Nasir? All
are you
right.
up there? And if you are, make sure that we're saying your name right, because I don't want to say it wrong for the entire webinar. So Nasir, if you're there, if you can come off of mute and chat with us.
And as you're finding that and how to come off mute, I want to let everyone know, if you look at page 3 in your cash management resource guide, you're going to see kind of the buttons in order that a crew member is going to use. Up until this point, we've used start shift, and that's what the crew member selected when they came in. And we've used unassigned till to send someone on break. The second crew member came in, they started their own shift, and if they would ever go on break, they would hit unassigned till. In a few moments, after we balance some cash or take a look at yesterday's cash, I'm going to teach you how to bring that crew member back from break so that you can restart their count again. All right, so do we have Nasir on the line?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Are we saying your name right?
It's Nasaya.
Nasaya?
Yeah.
I would have
I
never.
like that better.
I would have never gotten that correct. So I'm
Sorry.
glad you said that.
It's okay.
All right, Nasaya, you're going to be my next volunteer. And what I'd like you to do you have that cash management resource guide in front of you?
I have the same guide that Heather does.
Okay, so in your guide, let's see, if you can go to page 4, can you tell me, is that in like all pink?
So I have the large guide, just like Heather does.
Okay, I'm sorry. So that would be page 60 or maybe page 70. We're looking for where it says shift leader and above.
On page 70, it's shift settlement. Is that correct?
It might be. We're looking for something that's in all pink, and box number A would say open a new deposit.
I was trying to hold it up, but you cannot see what I was doing. So I'll stop.
Okay. Oh, perfect. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to read box A where it says open a new deposit. Have you been able to find that yet?
I haven't. Sorry, hold on.
That's okay. Sean, do you know what page that is in the big guide?
I don't, because the big guide, I'll see if I can get close to it. The big guide I have is probably one update behind what they have. So.
Oh, wait, is it 62? Open bank deposit?
Yes. Open a new bank deposit?
Yes.
Okay. And then what does step number 1 say?
So go to functions
Okay.
and then daily shift functions.
Okay.
Then,
You're fine. Just read what it says on there. We're not going to see it on this
cash
screen.
management dashboard.
So then
Okay.
it would say cash management dashboard. Well, we don't see a cash management dashboard, and that's because this crew member is still signed in. So because this crew member signed in, they're probably ringing up guests. As a manager or shift leader and above, so who's ever responsible for doing cash, you need to find an available POS. So I'm just going to go ahead and sign out as the crew member, because right now we're in this training environment, so we only have one POS, and I'm going to sign in as a shift leader or above so that you can see what we're talking about.
Okay.
What we're doing now is we're going to balance cash. So we've kind of got through our rush and we've helped send our crew members on break and it's some downtime. And I'm going to take a look at today's cash and yesterday's cash. So now that I'm signed in as a manager, if we go through those steps that you read, which was functions, daily shift functions, and what was the step that you told me to hit that wasn't on that crew member screen?
Cash management dashboard.
Awesome. So this is your cash management dashboard right in the middle here. It's this big, either orange or purple. It depends upon how my eyes are focusing that day, rectangle. And I'm going to click on that. And now what's the next step?
Select the bank deposit tab.
Okay. Right now we have two tabs. We have a till tab with a number 4, which means we have 4 tills open. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then we have the bank deposit tab, which you're talking about, which has the number 1 in parentheses, which means we only have 1 deposit open. And you'll notice the deposit that we have open is from yesterday. So it has yesterday's date and it has the name of the manager that opened it. And you'll see that we have nothing in it right now. And that's because we haven't closed cash out from yesterday yet. But we're going to open today's deposit first. And that's what you're going to walk us through. So step 5 says what?
It says open. Select open.
Yep, select open. So open's right down here at the bottom. I'm going to hit open. And then step 6 says what?
It says select the deposit.
Okay, and read me step 7 also.
Then it says select bank deposit date.
All right, so step 6, select the deposit. If you're doing multiple deposits throughout the course of the day, you have a way to be able to designate them, AM, PM, or midday. If you do one deposit, you're going to select the last one, which is just general deposit, and hit OK. And then you told us to select the business date. Well, today is November 17th. So we're going to open this deposit for November 17th. So I'm just simply touching Tuesday, November 17th. And then what's step number 8?
Select exit.
Like exit. So I'm just hitting exit right now. My deposit's open. If you think about start of day in Radiant, this is kind of equivalent to your start of day. The only thing you have to do is open a deposit. Now, the next thing I want to show you, though, is how to balance your cash from the day before. And the time you do this in your network might, it's going to be different according to each franchisee. But if we're looking at yesterday's cash and we want to do yesterday's deposit, I want to teach you how to close that out. Thank you for reading for me. I'm good right now, and you've done a fantastic job. So you can go ahead and just keep following along, but you can go ahead and mute yourself again. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so I want to explain these tabs to you now. As I told you earlier, bank deposit tab. Behind that, you're always going to see a number in parentheses, and that's how many deposits you currently have open. We have yesterday's deposit open, which I showed you earlier, and then we also have today's deposit open. If we're looking at our till tab, we have 4 tills that are open. And by open, I just mean they haven't been put in a deposit or they haven't been counted by a crew member. A crew does have the ability to count a till. They do what's called a blind count, which means that they don't know what they're over or short. And I'll show you that in just a couple moments. But right now, what we want to do is understand what's on this till tab so that we can make sure that we keep the right cash in the right day and close the right deposit. So we have in our first column here, till name, employee, and date opened. So if you remember when we assigned our first crew member their till, we didn't have till number 1 available. The reason we didn't is because till number 1 was used yesterday. And here's yesterday's date, and this is the time the till was opened, and the name of the crew member that has been working on the till, so that was Cy. We didn't have till 2 available, and that's because that till was also used yesterday, and it hasn't been put in a deposit yet, so it's not available to reassign until it's put into a deposit. Otto was the crew member that was on that till, and that was opened yesterday as well. We simply need to put yesterday's cash into yesterday's deposit. And that's kind of what's considered end of day in Radiant. So we have Cy and Otto, and then we also have these two other tills. So we have till 3 and till 4, and there are tills from this morning. So we have Casey's till. Casey's on break, and we know that Casey's on break because in our next column here, it says not assigned. So when Heather was reading our steps, and Heather said in order to send Casey on break, Casey needed to hit unassign on his or her till. And that's what stops Casey's count. Okay, so whatever Casey's ringing, when Casey unassigns, that's what stops Casey's count, because Casey is going to pull his or her till out and put it somewhere while they're on break. We also have till 4, which is Sherry, and Sherry's that crew member that's up front ringing right now. And the reason we know that is because right here, it's telling us the POS that that till is assigned to. Underneath each of these, you then see something that says counted or open. So these tills are open. There are crew members for today. Then we have Otto's till that's open, and open just means it's not counted. So there has been no count entered for that till. And then we have Cy, and Cy counted his or her till, and that's why that says counted. This is what Cy counted and entered into the computer. This is what Cy should have had. So Cy's till is short $10.84. Cy doesn't know that, but I know that as a manager. So Cy's money's somewhere, wherever you tell Cy to put his or her money when they're done with their shift. And I'm just going to go back and I'm going to verify that they really had $3.85. And if not, I'm going to adjust it to whatever they really had. And we're going to do that in just a moment, because Cy actually had that $10.84. Cy just didn't enter it into the computer right. We then have Otto, and Otto did not enter a count. So maybe Otto closed, and I told Otto, don't count your drawer, just to go home. But Otto unassigned. Unassigned, which means it stopped the count. That's why this says 0. But I want you all to chat in. Tell me, when I count Otto's drawer or Otto's drop, or however you have Otto store that money when Otto leaves, how much money should I find? What is the expected amount that I'm looking for when I verify Otto's till? Chat that in and tell me what it is or what it should be. And Sean, what are we seeing coming into chat?
I'm seeing everybody agrees, and we're seeing 49.47 from everyone so far.
Fantastic. Yes, it's this 49.47 right here. That's how much I should verify that Otto had from yesterday, and that's how much should be going into yesterday's deposit. We then, of course, have our tills from today, and we'll worry about them later because our crew members are up front taking great care of our guests while we're balancing this cash. So I'm going to show you how to change size count and put size drawer into the deposit. Cy really had that 1084. So I'm just going to change the counted to the expected amount. In order to do that, I'm going to put a check mark in the box, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to touch adjust count. And then I'm going to enter what I really had, what I want to change it to. And I want to change it to 395.84 because Cy just can't count appropriately. I'm just going to say I found the money. So you select a reason, and now you notice it just changed that over short. So the counted matches the expected because Cy really had that money. And now I want to move it to yesterday's deposit. So any drawers that say 1116, I want to put into the deposit that says 1116. I'm going to come down and I'm going to touch, because it has the check mark in it, I'm going to touch deposit and close. And now it's going to ask me, does this go in yesterday's deposit or today's? And this is one more chance just to verify the date and match up the date and then pick the appropriate thing. So I matched up the date. I'm going to touch the right date. Okay. And now it's just saying one more time, you really want to do this? I do, because once that drawer is in the deposit, there's no getting that drawer back out of the deposit. So it just moved over. And now you'll notice that yesterday's deposit has the total for the drawer in it. If you ever wonder what that is, check it, come down to detail, and it's going to show you that size drawer. It has $395.84. So that's our first drawer. Our second drawer from yesterday is Otto. Otto did not count his or her drawer, if you remember. So I need to count it as a manager. In order to do that, I'm just going to check the little box. And instead of hitting adjust count, because I don't have anything to adjust, I need to count. I'm going to hit count, and I'm going to enter what Cy actually had, or what I verified, and I verified $50. So Cy's drawer is off just a little bit. When I hit next, you're going to see that a variance pops up. If Cy was entering this, or the crew member was entering this, they would not see that variance, and you'll see that in action in just a few moments. If there is a variance, a reason needs to be selected. And I'm just saying the till's a little bit over. I touched done. And now, because I'm a manager entering this count, you don't have to take that extra step that says deposit and close. The system knows you're the manager doing the cash, and so it's automatically going to ask you right away. It's automatically going to go to deposit and close, and it's going to say right away, what deposit do you want to put it in? Yesterday's date with yesterday's deposit, okay. And now it automatically moves that over for me. So now I have two tills, only today's tills that we've been ringing on. My one that isn't assigned because Casey's on break. My one that is assigned because Sherry's up front ringing guests. And I have my two bank deposits, yesterday's and today's. I'm done with yesterday, so I'm just going to touch it and I'm going to hit close. System's going to say, do you really want to close this deposit? And I do. So I closed it out. Now I'm current. I have today's cash, today's tills, today's deposit, nothing in it. And probably sometime tomorrow, I'll close out yesterday's deposit if you're always going to be a day behind. But your till count will build as more crew members come in and leave throughout the course of the day. I'm going to pause there and ask if you have any questions on closing or opening a deposit before we go back and take a look at a manager assigning a till, how to do a cash pool, and then we're actually going to close out this deposit as well.
Jess, so far, nothing in the chat.
Okay. So then what we're going to do, and of course, if you think of questions as we continue to move on, chat them in. Sean's watching that. And we'll make sure that we get your question answered. I'm going to come back to the cash management dashboard quick and make sure I know what crew member we have assigned. Like I told you earlier, I'm a forgetful person. So I forget to run, forget that I parked cars and I forget who has tills and who doesn't. So Casey has a till and Casey's on break and Sherry is up front ringing. All right. So I'm going to send Sherry on break, which means that I'm going to sign out as a manager and I'm going to sign back in so that we can look at Sherry's POS. And I'm going to have you all chat in the steps we're going to take in order to send Sherry on break. And we're going to bring Casey back. So I'm signed in to Sherry's register. Sherry's been up front ringing. I'm going to go to functions, daily shipped functions, and what am I going to touch, or what's the next button I'm going to hit in order to send Sherry on break? Can you chat that in for me?
All right, I'm keeping an eye on it. And we have Gilda said unassigned. We also have another unassigned till from POS. Unassigned till, unassigned, unassigned. They're pouring in now.
Perfect.
Rounding, unassigned.
Yep, unassigned is absolutely correct. That's what's going to stop the count. Pop the drawer open so Sherry can go put the drawer wherever you have Sherry put the drawer while she's on break. So I pulled it out, I stored my drawer, and I need to bring my other crew member back. So that crew member was Quesadilla. And I'm typing in Quesadilla's 9-digit code right now. I'm going to go to functions, daily shipped functions, and we're going to take a look at this. Start shift we've already used. That's what started Casey's day. Unassign we use to send Casey on break. The next button we're going to use is this continue shift. That's going to start Casey's count back up again as Casey comes back from break. And this continue shift can happen on a drive-through POS, the front counter POS, wherever you want to bring Casey back to. So you might have sent Casey on break from the POS at front counter. Casey stored his or her drawer somewhere. And when Casey comes back, you're going to say, take your drawer, go sign in to drive-through, and I want you to continue the rest of your shift on drive-through. Because Casey has his own 9-digit code and Casey's signing back into the drive-through, it's going to continue Casey's shift on drive-through, and it's going to add all of the funds from front counter to drive-through. So you can move people around however you would like. I'm going to hit continue shift here. Remember, it says, hey, you had till 3 before, you're assigning till 3, I am, and now I'm ready to ring. So I'm going to ring up and take care of all of my guests. And I am an amazing employee, and I sold a Keurig, and I have lots of sales on my drawer. Now it's the end of my shift, and I'm ready to go home, and I'm tired. And I'm gonna need to take my drawer out and count it. So I'm gonna go to functions, daily shift functions, unassign. Just like we did earlier to send Casey on break. I'm unassigning it to stop that count. I'm gonna hit yes. And it pops open, and I go take my drawer wherever I take it to count it. I come back up and I hit count till. So now I'm gonna enter how much money I counted that was in my drawer, and I'm just gonna enter $1,000 because we know that that's not the right amount. I'm gonna hit next. And you can see it's just simply saying you counted $1,000. Thank you. Doesn't tell me what I'm over or short. I have no idea. Prints out a little piece of paper. I do whatever I do with my money before I leave, and I am done for the day. The next day, or whenever you balance your cash, that manager would verify that my count was accurate. And if not, they change it, just like I showed you how to do earlier. I do want to show you one additional thing, and that's how a manager would assign a till. And that's just a little bit different than a crew member. And if you're following along in that cash management resource guide, this is going to be on page 6. And it says at the beginning, or at the very top, it says shift leader and above level access users. This is the process for shift leaders who will be ringing on the POS. So from time to time, you'll have managers or shift leaders that need to assign themselves a till, maybe to cover a break or for any particular reason. Their process is a little bit different. They don't have the start day, end day, continue shift like a crew member does. They have a couple different options. I want to make sure you understand what they are. So I'm just signing in as a manager here. Oh, perhaps. Let's see. There we go. So I'm signing in as a manager. And step number 1, it says select functions. And then daily shift functions is step number 2. Step number 3 says you hit assign till to POS. So I'm going to touch assign till to POS. I pick my first available. Now you'll notice 1 and 2 are back, 3 and 4 are not. Can you chat in for me and tell me why are 1 and 2 back? Why are they showing back up on the select till? This is important to understand. Why do I now have them available as options? What did we do with those tills?
So we had someone say they are closed out.
Exactly. They've been closed out. They've been, go ahead, Sean.
A few more people said, Heidi said they were counted. Heather said they settled their drawers. So it sounds like all of them are right.
Yeah, so those drawers are settled. They've been put in a deposit. And now that they're in a deposit, and that means that they're available again. So that's why they showed back up. 3 and 4 aren't here because we were using them today. 3 was counted. That was Casey's drawer that we just entered the count of $1,000 for, but we haven't put it in a deposit yet. It hasn't been verified and actually deposited, so that's why it's not showing up. And 4, of course, that crew member's on break. So I'm going to select my first available. And now your job aid is going to tell you that a restaurant manager or shift leader and above have one additional step, and that's to assign a user to a till. But I want to show you why first before we actually do that. If I click on the cash management dashboard, you're going to see all of the different tills, and you'll see where the names are, right? So we had Casey's till that Casey counted a little bit ago. We have Sherry's till that's opened, but Sherry's on break. And then here's the manager till that I just selected, but you'll notice that underneath of that, it doesn't have a name. It just says not assigned. And it says not assigned because we haven't taken that second step of assigning the till or the user to the till. So this was our first step. Our job's going to tell us, our job aid's going to tell us this is our second step. And if you're following along on page 6, it's actually step number 6, where it says assign user to a till. I click on that, and then I'm just going to find my name. And my manager name is Hollywood. I'm going to hit add and then save. Now it's saying you want to assign this person to that till, and I touch yes. And now you'll actually notice my name attached to here. So people ask why is this important? It's important for a lot of different reasons, but one issue I've seen is sometimes the system needs a name. It always needs a name with a till in order to make sure it gets closed out appropriately and put in the right deposit. So always make sure that there's a name associated with that till. So now that we've assigned that user to the till, that person can go ahead and ring, cover whatever breaks they need to cover. And I'm just going to generate some sales on here so that I can teach you how to do a cash pool. All right. Cash pools. Cash pools can be completed in the system, and we're going to walk through the steps of how to complete a cash pool. And then as we close out this final deposit, I'm going to teach you how to close out that cash pool or deposit that cash pool as well. And then we'll be turning things back over to, actually, I'll walk you through some reports and then I'll turn it back over to Sean. So in order to perform a cash pool, I'm going to go to functions and cash pool, and you're going to enter the amount of money that you're pulling out. Before I do that though, let's just take a look at this cash management dashboard so we can understand what's going on. This is my manager drawer. We know that this is the one that's currently in the POS because it's showing right there. And we know that there's $530 in this particular drawer. So that my crew members can say safe, I don't want to have $500 in the drawer, and I want to get some of that put away and taken out of the till. So I'm going to do a cash pool, and we're going to delete some of this money from that expected count. So I'm going to go to cash pool, I showed you earlier, and I'm going to type in how much money I'm going to pull out of that till, and I'm going to go put wherever I put according to my cash standards. I'm going to pull out $400 and hit OK. Gave me a little piece of paper that said that you did a cash pool of $400. And what it did now is it adjusted that count because that money is out of that crew member's drawer. And if we look at the cash management dashboard, you'll notice that this expected amount just dropped to $130.52 because you took $400 out. This is essentially like your calculator, right? And it's going to add or subtract everything that you do. And every single time you hit unassign, it's going to stop the count. Reassign, starts it back up again. All right, so now that I've done my cash pool, we're going to go ahead and unassign this manager's till, and we're going to close out this bank deposit for the day just to see it happen one more time before we test your knowledge. So I'm going to go over here to close out or to take out my cash till. I'm going to hit unassign for a manager just like I would for a crew member, and it's unassign that till. So now if we look at our dashboard, every single till is unassigned. Remember, Casey has a count, Sherry does not, and Hollywood does not. We're going to take all of today's tills and put them into today's deposit and close this out. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fix Casey's count. And I want you guys to chat in what blue button am I going to hit in order to fix Casey's count?
All right, Heather said adjust. Christina, adjust. One of the stores said adjust. Everybody's saying it.
Great. So I'm going to come down to adjust count. And I'm going to type in $137. Okay. Miscount. And now it just adjusted that count for me. And you'll see my new overshort. Now to put that in the deposit, I'm going to simply hit deposit and close. Now I only have one deposit open, right? I don't have yesterday's deposit open anymore. So I'm just going to hit yes, and it's going to automatically move that over into that deposit. Now we're going to do Sherry's drawer. I'm going to touch Sherry. Does Sherry have account entered currently? Yes or no?
Everybody is saying no.
Good. So I need to do that as a manager. In order to do that, I'm going to come down to count, and I'm going to enter that count. Now notice Sherry has 372. I'm going to accidentally mess up as a manager. Okay. I'm going to enter 2372. You're going to notice there's the variance. Sherry doesn't know that, but I do. Here's my reason, whatever I want that to be. And because I'm the manager entering the count, it automatically moves it over to the deposit. Now, before we do this last till here, we need to remember that we did a cash pool. So if I click on this bank deposit and I come down to detail, that's where it's going to show you everything that's in that bank deposit. I have Casey's drawer and Sherry's drawer that we just closed out. I don't have that cash pool. I want you to think about cash pools just like cash drawers. And so you ring it, which is what we did right here. We rang up the cash pool. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to count it like a crew member does at the end of their shift, and then we're going to deposit it just like a manager does. So you ring the cash pool, you count the cash pool, you deposit the cash pool, just like a regular drawer. Your steps for doing that, if you forget, they're in that cash management resource guide, or that quick reference guide that's on that little ring. You need to deposit your cash pool one time. So that means if you're doing 5 different cash pools throughout the course of the day, you wait till whenever you're balancing that deposit to do that cash pool. And so that might mean you don't know how many have been done throughout the course of the day. There's a report you can run to see that. It's this safe cash pool report. So if I run that as a manager and I hit run, this is going to show me what cash pools have been done. In order to read this report, you're going to notice here's cash pools that were done on 9/11, and 1,400 have been deposited. But I also did a cash pool today, and that's where this report gets a little tricky, because this is going to show you when you start doing cash pools, but it won't necessarily always show today's date, just when you started doing cash pools. This is how much hasn't been deposited. So I know that's my total for this deposit because I'm closing out cash pools every single day. I have $400 that's outstanding. And so that's the cash pool that I need to deposit. That's the cash pool that we did. So to do that, remember I said you ring it, which is ringing that in the cash pool, then you count it, and then you deposit it. So here's our count. We're counting a cash pool, okay, and we're going to enter how much we pulled, which was that $400. You're never going to have a variance, and now we need to deposit it. So now I'm clicking deposit. This is a cash pool, and you're going to enter how much it is, which is 400. Okay. Now it's just saying you want to put that in this deposit. If you had 2 deposits open, it's going to ask you which deposit you're putting it in. You hit OK. So now if we go back to our dashboard and we click on our deposit detail, you're going to see that your $400 cash, total cash pulls for the day, are in that deposit. Last but not least, we need to move this drawer over to the deposit. So once again, I'm going to come down. It doesn't have account listed, so I'm going to enter my account, which is supposed to be 130.52. I'm going to enter this as 120.52. So I'm off by $10. You see the variance. I select my reason and I move that drawer over. Because I'm a manager, it automatically moved it over for me. Now, the last thing to do is to close out that deposit. But if you remember earlier, I said once a drawer goes into a deposit, you can't change it. You can adjust the count as many times as you need to until you put it in a deposit. Once it's in the deposit, it's final. So the question becomes, well, what if I find that money, right? So that crew member was short $10 and I went up front and I opened my till, I pulled it out, I look back behind and I find that $10. So now what do I need to do? Because I can't adjust that till anymore. Well, in that instance, you would just adjust your deposit. So to do that, I'm going to put a check mark in the box. I'm going to hit adjust, and I'm going to change my deposit to whatever it is I need to adjust it to. And I found that $10. So I'm going to type in $691.24. Okay. Why? Well, I found the money hiding back behind the drawer, and so it just adjusted my deposit. So this is my final total. This is what everyone had entered for their till counts, and this is how much I had adjusted it by. Now that I know that I have it where I need it, I can do one final check to see what detail is in here. Well, that's everything that's in there, and I'm good. I know my cash pulls are in there, so I can hit close, and my deposit's closed. So I have no open tills, no open deposits. I have nothing to worry about, and I'm all caught up on cash for the day. What additional questions might you have about how to do cash pulls or balance same day cash, same day, or just deposits?
Just nothing coming in through the chat so far.
Okay. So Sean, I know that we have a knowledge check. Do we want to do that first and then go over reports, or do we want to go over reports? And then...
Let's just do the reports real quick, and then I'll just share the knowledge check right at the very end.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. We also had the 24-hour store, just a quick overview of that.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so 24-hour stores. For 24-hour stores that's in the system, so the question always becomes, if I have cash that I need to keep the right cash in the right day, how does that happen overnight when you have someone working from like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.? And you used to have to switch everything out at midnight. And that's really tough to do when you have people sitting in your drive-through. So the system was actually changed to be able to manage that drawer all throughout the course of the evening. So if you take a look at the example that's on your screen, you might have till number 6 at that point in time. And that till was opened on 10/8, okay? And that crew member came in at 10 p.m. and they worked all the way through 6 a.m. When that crew member goes to cash out their till, it's going to take the right amount of cash for 10/8 and the right amount of cash for 10/9, and it's going to count the cash in the appropriate days. So if we look at the example down in the pink box on your screen, it's going to say, so say that they rang up $20 from 10 p.m. until 11:59:59. That $20 is going to count towards the sales on 10/8, and anything they rang up after midnight is going to count towards the sales for 10/9. When they count their drawer at the end of their shift, so this is 10/9, so the next morning, the overshort for 10/8, when they open their till, will always be 0, always going to be 0. If the till is over or short anything, that's going to be applied to the next day. So when they're counting out or closing out their till. And that's what you see kind of next. So 10-9 at the end of their shift, the overnight employee entered a count of $48. The manager verified and determined that the till was short 36 cents. Well, that short 36 cents goes to 10-9 and 10-8 stays perfect. And that's the bottom bullet point. So the over short 36 cents from the overnight will be seen in the 10-9 deposit. So till count applies to the date the till is started, and the cash over short applies to the date the till is closed. And in order for all of this to happen, I'm going to show you reports in a minute. Just know that a 24-hour store has a separate report so that you can see all of this data reflected appropriately. So this slide shows you that non-24-hour report that I keep referring to. This is available in RNA, or Reporting and Analytics. It's the same website that Sean showed you how to enter your crew members in. Think about that website for all things kind of POS reporting related. Then you also have lots of reports available on the actual POS itself. But this is the main report that you're going to look at in RNA. It's called the Dunkin' Sales Summary Report, and it shows a lot of really great things. You have your business date, and then of course your PC number in the top. And then you have all of your sales metrics in this first red box right here that I'm highlighting. That's going to show you your net sales, any kind of service charges you might have, your gross sales, which equals your total revenue. And then you have your adjustments in the middle box column that I'm pointing at right now. So that's your returns, your voids, your error corrects, things like that. And then over to the far right, you have what's called your checks column. One thing I want to point out to you that might be just a little bit confusing, and I'm going to point those out to you, that is this carried over checks and the outstanding checks. So an outstanding check means that when the report is run, these are open checks that you have in your system for that particular day. So this day is 12/17, and there are currently, and these are fake examples, and you'll see why, there are currently 87 open checks for that day. I want you to, so if you're thinking about it in current terms, think about any on-the-go orders that haven't come in or picked up yet. Drive-through cars that are sitting in the queue, they haven't cashed out yet. So those are outstanding orders that are in your system. Carried over means these are orders from previous days that are still outstanding. So these are checks that carried over from one business day into the next business day. And at this point in time, they're the same. Sometimes they might not be, right? This would be, an example would be you have a car in drive-through that pulled out of line. So that's an outstanding check for that day. If you don't cancel that order out that day, that check will then show up as a carried over check the next day, which means that you haven't, there's no sales associated with that yet. You haven't cashed it out. Looking at the rest of this report, you then have your order type. So eat-in, drive-through, on the go, your day parts, your tender types. Anytime you see an underline means that that's clickable. So if you click on that, it's going to expand and it's going to show you all the specific details and all the specific transactions associated with all of those. So lots of information available on this report. This is, again, in RNA. And then 24-hour locations, you have the same report, but it says 24 hours in front of it. You do need to make sure you're using the 24-hour Dunkin' Sales Summary Report because this one will not be accurate. You'll see this one, but it's not going to be right. So make sure 24-hour storage, you're using the 24-hour Dunkin' Sales Summary Report. So then finally, what do you need to do to teach this all to your crew members? Well, you're going to utilize those that quick reference guide that I keep talking about to have at your POS, and then your Symphony POS Leaders Guide, which it sounds like many of you have available and you are using today, which is awesome. And then lots of courses on Online University, short little courses for your crew members to watch, things like how to ring in, just an overview orientation of the screen, how to take lots of different payments, how to do some crew administrative functions. Managers, you have one as well. And then, of course, those two other documents that I talked about. So lots of different things available for you to train your crew, and then resources to go back on if you forget what we talked about today. All right, so Sean, if you could open up the polls and do that knowledge check. I'll read through if you open them up, and we'll see how much information everybody retained. So a couple questions here. The first one, on the VDU, hot beverages display in red text, is that true or false? Question number 2, where does the manager go on the POS to reconcile tills and deposits? And then question number 3, if you want to see what tills are in a deposit, where do you go?
All right, looks like we have about 6, 7, 8 people that have responded so far. We'll give you a little bit longer to get your answers in. Remember, if you're not quite sure, you can always guess. We're not sure how you answered. We just get to see the final tally. We'll give you about 10 more seconds to get those answers in. And I'll close it out in 5 seconds. 2 seconds to hit submit, get those final answers in. And I'm going to close it out and share the results.
All right, so on the VDU, hot beverages display in red text, the majority of you said false, and false is the correct answer. Red doesn't mean hot in the system. Red means stop, don't make it. So your canceled orders or your voided orders are going to show in red. Your iced beverages, though, will show in blue. On the POS, manager is going to go to the cash management dashboard. Yes, 100% of people got that correct, in order to reconcile tills and deposits. And then if you want to see what tills are included in a bank deposit, the details. So all 16 of you got that correct as well. Back to you, Sean.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Good job with the questions. We are now going to open it up for any additional questions that you have for us. So we have about 4 more minutes until it is 1:30, but we want to make sure if there's any questions that you have, you are able to ask us, and hopefully we can get you some answers. So you can type them in the chat, or you can come off of mute, and feel free to ask away, whether it's about employee setup or any of the information you saw Jess go through for cash management. And Becky or Heidi or Sharif, if there's anything you guys want to add, feel free to chime in while they're typing in their questions.
Great job today, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. So I don't see anything in the chat. I don't hear anybody trying to come off of mute and talk to us. So I guess we will wrap it up for the day. We will be back again with you guys tomorrow. Whole new set of topics. We're going to be taking you through inventory tomorrow. But if there's any questions about today that come up between now and then, feel free to write them down. You can ask us tomorrow, and we will try to get you some answers. So thanks again for today's session. Thank you guys for all of your interaction with us. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.